Hi guys, today I'm going to talk about a project that I've been wanting to do for years now, and that's to put a Hayabusa motorcycle engine into a small car. Now this has been done several times with the Hayabusa engines going into smart cars, Mini Coopers, Miatas, and several other cars, but I've yet to see anyone put one into a first-gen Civic. So you may be wondering why an old Honda Civic? You see, when I was a teenager, I had a paper out in my hometown, and one of my customers was an old lady who owned a gold first gen with the Honda-matic transmission. And despite being about 20 years old, it was still in mint condition. As I passed the car in her driveway every day, I was intrigued with the term Honda-matic, which I only learned the details about when I was much older, and as I grew up and moved away, the car always stuck in the back of my mind. Years later, I purchased my first car, a used '88 Civic. Then my second, and my third, and finally my last Civic. At this point I was definitely a Honda guy, and with a decent amount of mechanical ability, I set out to find a first gen like the one I loved years ago. While it took many years and some unsuccessful attempts in between, I finally purchased a '74 with the Honda-matic transmission. And here we have the engine donor bite. It has pretty significant damage, but hopefully the motor is still good. Now there's obviously a bit of damage to one of the engine covers, but hopefully nothing that will be too difficult to find replacements for. It's a 1999 Suzuki Hayabusa 1300R, and being the first model year, this is the only year that they did not come with a speed limiter. Not that that will matter in the Civic, because it'll never go anywhere near that fast. At nearly 160 horsepower, there should be plenty of power to move that little car. So I've been thinking about this project for years now, and here are the different options I can go with. Option 1 is using the Hayabusa motor transversely the same way as the stock motor, and using either the stock transmission or a D-Series Civic transmission. This would be the easiest option, but would leave the car front-wheel drive, which in my opinion won't be as fun. To mate the bike motor to the car transmission, I would have to leave the bike in either first or second gear and use the sprocket output shaft with a custom assembly to attach a flywheel and run the car transmission. Or, as in the case of the Hayabusa, have a new input shaft machined and use that as an output shaft for the transmission. Option 2 is using the Hayabusa motor longitudinally with a small drive shaft coming right off the motor to a reversing gearbox, and then another drive shaft going to a rear axle. This option would make the car rear-wheel drive using the Hayabusa 6-speed transmission and clutch. I quite like this option because it would mean quick shifting with the sequential gearbox. But depending on which axles are available from either an SUV, Subaru, or older BMW, and what gearing they have, the bike transmission gearing may be too tall to take advantage of the Hayabusa torque. Option 3 is again using the Hayabusa motor longitudinally, but mating it to a Volkswagen Audi DSG transmission, and again a drive shaft to the rear axle. I have been a fan of the technology behind VW's direct shift gearboxes since they came out, and I think they would work well with this motor. The idea would be to leave the bike motor in first or second gear, depending on the gearing of the transmission and axle, or as mentioned in option 1, use a new input shaft as an output by bypassing the bike transmission. So before any of that happens, first I'm going to have to build a garage, and that's going to go about here. So once that's done, then hopefully this whole project can get going. So until then, the Civic is going back into storage. In the meantime, if any of you have experience in this type of project, have tools or parts to recommend, have advice or comments, or would like to help in any way, please comment on the video below or message me on either YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram. I'd really like to hear from you. And if any of you are as excited as I am to see a project like this take off and would like to help out financially, I have set up a Patreon account specifically for this project, and you can find the link here and in the video description.